So in this video, I want to talk about how to combo different elements to do massive damage in Genshin Impact. The first thing you should know is that there are 7 different types of elements in the game. There is a wind element called Anemo, a earth element called Geo, lightning element called Electro, nature element called Dendro, water element called Hydro, fire element called Pyro, and ice element called Cryo. So when I first started playing the game, I tunnel visioned my one hero, the first one that you get with the wind, because he was like melee and that was cool for me. And after fighting a boss, I realized that using elements actually kind of speeds things up quite a lot. Especially when you fight certain enemies who are certain types and you use like the opposite kind of like element effect and you do massive damage towards them. So here are some combos that you can use. The first ones are going to give you don't actually have to use them in any particular order, but if you use electricity and pyro, either one or the other, whichever first, obviously you need to have a hero with each of those on your team, and you have to build your team according to what elements you want to use for the maximum damage that you can output. So electro and pyro give you an effect called overloaded, which gives you a large area of effect of pyro damage, which is fire damage. So that's pretty cool. If you use electro and cryo, you get a superconduct, and this is a large area of effect of cryo damage. It also reduces the enemy speed. And the last one that you can use randomly is electro and hydro, which is obviously water, where you get the electro charged effect, which deals electricity damage over time. Now, the nice thing about this is that you don't actually have to always have another element there. For example, that electro and hydro, you don't have to use a water effect on the enemy to apply a water effect. The enemy could literally just be standing in water, and you just have to do electricity and bam, you have the effect. So the game kind of takes these natural elements into account as well. So it kind of like changes up how you need to like focus on what your surroundings are and how you want things to work. The same goes for fire. If there's fire nearby on your enemy and you use electricity, you'll also get the overloaded large area of effect pyro damage. So here are 2 combos that you can use: melt and vaporize, but there's a preferred way to use them. For example, getting the melt status, you can use cryo and then pyro to dispel both of the effects immediately, and it does double damage for the cryo damage. But if you use the fire first and then the cryo, it will dispel both effects and only do 1.5 of the cryo damage. So you always freeze your enemy first and then burn them to do the melt effect for the most damage. For the vaporize effect, you're going to want to burn your enemy first with pyro and then use hydro to kind of cool them off. And now this will dispel both of the effects and deal 2 times hydro damage. However, if you swap that and you do hydro and then pyro, you'll dispel both effects and only deal 1.5 of pyro damage. There's also really insane order-specific combos that you have to do, like each element in a specific order, to kind of spread all of these insane effects like just massively as possible. And this is something you'll be doing probably at a really high end game where you really want to like optimize how much damage you're outputting. So the first one is applying pyro and then electro and then hydro and then cryo and then wind. And this gives you the effect swirl. Now this is a difficult one to pull off because this consists of 5 elements in a row, very specific. And what this does is it lets the elemental effect be spread wider to nearby enemies, I believe. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't actually tested this, but it sounds so hard to pull off. I believe it should do massive damage. If you've actually managed to pull this off, let me know in the comments below what it does. Is it strong? Is it crazy? Tell me about it. Another order-specific combo of elements is using Dendro, which is your nature kind of effect, and then pyro, you get the burning. So nature and then burning, it burns the enemy over time more effectively than pyro does on its own. So if you want your enemy to just like burn, just like burn, baby, burn, apply nature and then apply the burn, because obviously nature burns. The third element combo here is when you apply enemy with hydro, which is water, and then ice, you do get to freeze them immediately. It freezes them in place, and obviously from here, you can do a lot of things. Like for one, you could just burn them and like, you know, just like make them like freaking take heavy like burn damage. Now, while your enemy is frozen and you hit him with a heavy attack by holding down your normal attack, you can do the shattered effect, which breaks the enemy out of the frozen status and deals more physical damage to them directly. And those are some just right off the top there, but you can obviously use some logic to apply different things. Like when you're fighting a fire enemy, obviously use water. If you're fighting an ice enemy, obviously use fire. So you got to keep changing between your heroes on your team to kind of apply different elements that you think will benefit you the most and the quickest, especially depending on what type of element your enemy is. You even get bonuses based on what type of elements are on your actual team. Now this is crazy. For example, if you have any 4 unique elements on your team, you get the Protective Canopy buff, which kind of gives you all elemental resistance plus 15%, so you can resist all the elements by 15%. If you have 2 fire types on your teams, you get the Fervent Flames, which lets you be affected by cryo damage 40% less than usual, and also increases your fire damage attack up by 25%. If you have 2 water types, you get Soothing Water, which reduces the pyro damage that you take by 40% and also increases the healing that you take by 30%. If you have 2 wind types, you get the Epigenous Winds. I don't even know if I said that right. Now this decreases your stamina use by 15%, so it's easy to use a lot more stamina. Your movement goes up by 10%, so you're going to be fast. Your skill cooldown is reduced by 5% as well, so it's quite a decent buff there, especially for traveling. If you have 2 electricity types, you get the High Voltage buff, which means you're affected by water 40% less. And the Superconduct, Overloaded, and Electro Charge effects have a 100% chance to create an Electro Elemental Particle, which has a 5-second cooldown. So you're going to have like a really electricity-heavy kind of team. That's pretty nuts, actually. If you have 2 ice types, you get the Shattering Ice effect. So it means electricity damage affects you 40% less. Your critical rate is increased by 15% against Frozen or cryo-affected monsters by 15%, so you can crit those buggers nicely. So fire and ice are not gonna like you, dude. If you have 2 earth types, you get the Enduring Rock, which increases your resistance to interruption. When you're protected by a shield, it increases your attack by 15%. So obviously you should kind of just pair what you feel plays best for you, and kind of just get the best out of your team and what heroes you like playing the most, and just kind of what system you really find. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in a future one. Thank you for watching.